Hello, everyone. My name is Lev Veyde. I'm a senior software engineer at Red Hat, and today's session will discuss the ways in which community can help to improve the oVirt project. We actually have some information already at our oVirt.org website, at the community webpage, which includes quite a lot of information for people that want to contribute and make the project better. So if we'll go over the page, you can easily see that it contains some information for developers, for people that want to test the project, to contribute translation, documentation, reports back, etc., etc. And in today's session, we'll focus mainly on contributing code. So if we are developers that want to contribute code, it doesn't matter if it's a new feature or we just want, for example, to fix a small typo in the code. So how can we do it? As we can already see, most of the source code of the oVirt project sits on the Gerrit server, which is located at gerrit.ovirt.org. So if we'll go to this server, we can see the standard Gerrit dashboard. And as you can see, by default, it shows us a few current patches, which are currently on review. And by the way, if we just want to get the code and just clone the code to our computer, we don't need any account. You can access it openly. So we can just go to browse repositories, select the repository that we want. Here we just have a small list of the available repositories, but we can go over the whole list of the repositories. So we can also filter them here. So for example, if we are looking specifically at this repository, we can begin type in and we'll get the list of the matching repositories. So let's open it, for example, and we get a link that we can use in order to clone the repository to our computer. So it's all fine, but in order to actually contribute the code, we'll need to create an account on the Gerrit server. Okay, so the way to do it, we actually need to go through the sign in link. And here we have a few options, which basically most people will use either GitHub or a Google account. So my preference is to use the Google. But using GitHub is quite similar, with the only main downside is that once you create the account, you normally need to set your email manually, since it doesn't normally pulls it from the GitHub account. So let's select the Google. And here is the normal screen. We select which account to use. In this case, I'm using this one. But normally you will select the account that that you're interested to use. And as you see, everything went just fine. The new account was created. It's almost unnoticeable. So what we do from here, we need to go and click on this icon, which shows that currently you are already connected to the server as an authenticated user. Okay, and in this case, you will see your account. Here you see that the account that I used. And next, we'll need to go to the settings to actually set up the account, to make an initial setup. So here you can see the general information. Notice that here, the username is empty. This is because that in this case, the Gerrit tried to use the username of oVirt contrib 2, but it's already in use. So we'll need to select for us a different user, which normally it doesn't happen, but I just wanted to show this case as well. So we'll select something different. We'll use oVirt contrib 3, for example. Okay, and click on Save Changes. Okay, if everything goes well, you will see that it accepted the user, so everything is fine. In case the user is already used by some other account, it will give you an error, and you will need to refresh and try a different one. So the next step, which is required, you need to verify that you actually have an email account set, which you do by clicking here. Okay, and in this case, we see that it's actually set fine. It appears here. And as already mentioned, for GitHub, you normally will need to manually add an account, an email account. And the next thing, you will need to make sure that you have SSH key, which will be required in order to pull and push patches through SSH. Okay. So we'll now add an SSH key. Okay. For that, you will normally you will need to get your SSH key from your server, from your computer. Okay. So let's do this as well. Okay. In this case, I'm going to my test machine, and we'll get our SSH key. So normally, we'll need the public key, of course, not the private key, but your public key. So let's copy it and go back into our window of the profile. Okay, cool. Let's paste it here and click on the Add New SSH Key. Okay, and if everything went well, we'll see that it was added, it's valid, and we basically finished setting up our Gerrit account. So the next step will be actually getting the project which we are interested in contributing to and setting the environment on our machine. Okay, so for that, let's first of all choose one of the project that we want basically to send patch to contribute to. And in this case, I choose this one. Okay, had to refresh the page to get actually the SSH link, which the one that actually we'll need to use in order to contribute, to be able to contribute code. Okay, so we got the link. Please notice that we normally have two links. One includes the code to get the commit message hook, which is important, and we normally need to choose the first one. Okay, so we're going to copy this link, and now we can go to our console. Let's clone the hook and the repo. Okay, it asks for the password since the private key is protected, but it depends on your specific configuration. Okay, and we got the repo to our computer. Now, there is a small issue here, because the computer that I'm using, it uses CentOS 7, which has a version of Git of 1.8, as we can see here. And in order to contribute the code and run specifically the hook, we need Git version, at least version 2. So what we're going to do now is simply install a software collections, which is quite easy. All we need to do is to run yum install CentOS release SCL. And once we have the collection in place, we can install one of the newer version of the Git, which included in the collection. For example, version 2.12. So now we'll just need to enable it. By the way, if we want to get a list of the software collections, we can use simply scl-l. And the way that we run it is basically give the command scl enable a specific version that we want to enable. In this case is the package scl git 212, and give the terminal that we want to use, the shell that we want to use, in this case bash, Okay, great. So we can now verify that our version of Git is different. So let's run again git -- version, and we can see that we are actually using Git 2.12 now. Okay, and now we need to complete a few more steps. The first one is actually we need to set up. It depends on your environment, but in this case, since it's a VM, I don't have a setup user for this specific repository, so I don't have a global installation, and we'll need to check to change it to make sure that our email in the Git configuration matches the one that we have on our account. The parameter is user.email. And while we're at it, let's also modify the name that will appear. Okay, parameter for this is user dot name. And now we can try to create our first page, a demo page. Okay, for that, we'll simply modify one of the files. It's just a dummy page. Please notice that I'm using -s because all the patches that we send to Gerrit must be signed. Sorry for the typo. Okay. And if we check the patch, our log, we can notice that it has proper email, it has been signed, and also there is a change ID, which is important because this is created by the hook that we got from the Gerrit server. And this is actually the reason why we need a more recent version of Git. Okay, and now let's try to push this patch to the server. So we'll use the regular git push command. But please notice that people that come from GitHub, for example, the syntax here is a bit different. So we need to actually get refs/4 and then the branch to which we want to push it. Okay. So for example, if we want to push the patch to the master branch, we'll need to use the syntaxes of refs/4/master. Okay. It asks again for the password for our SSH key. And it was successful. As you can see, we got a link to our new patch, which we can copy and open in the browser. And as you can see, here it is. We got our new patch. Please notice that in both the page name as the owner and the sign-off, we used the name that we set up in our machine. And actually, for people that contributing, it's important to put your correct name. If you want to your patches, if these patches will be included in the release, you want the proper attribution to be received, as we normally do for most releases. For example, if we take our current release, if we scroll it down, we'll see that there is a list of contributors, people that contributed to this release. And if you want your name to appear in the list as well, and you contributed to the release, please make sure that you set the correct name. By the way, if you want, if you find some issues on our website, including this release, let's say that I found some sort of typo in the release information and I want to fix it, I can also fix it directly from here. Okay, I have a link here at the bottom of edit this page. Okay, and if I have a GitHub account, I can easily modify it. So let's click on this edit this page, fork this repository. Let's say that just a dummy change. I want to modify the date. Propose changes. And we click on create pull request. Here we need to update this information as well. Normally we'll include here the list of the changes, what included this particular pull request. Let's say the release date. Here we normally sign with our user to confirm that we submitted it according to the guidelines. And here we'll use a reference to the people that we want this patch to be reviewed by. And we'll click on the create pull request. And here you can see it's successful. So now a new PR was created. And if it actually passes the checks and we find it useful, it will be merged. So let's get back to other ways in which community can help. As we already mentioned, it's the testing, it's the translation and improvement of the documentation, as well as filling bugs. So in order to fill the bug, we have a Red Hat Bugzilla. We have a guide here, which contains the information. And if we click here, we have the information on how to do that. As you can see, you will need to create an account on redhat.com for the Bugzilla. And here are the steps, general information, general instructions of how to open the bug. So this is our Bugzilla. In this session, we won't create a special account. I want to demonstrate the creation of the account and filling of the bug, but you can use this information. It can, it's self-explanatory enough. Okay, and that basically completes our session.